Yeah, so we just wanted to get these young aspiring developers together to kind of share their stories. Because I know there's a lot of people on Twitter that are going through the same exact things that they are, and so we wanted to bring these ladies together to kind of just share their story, share their journey, things that they're doing now, things that they're struggling with, and things that are that are successful as well. But I want to introduce myself first. I'm Shashi. I am a senior UI engineer from Dremio. I am in Austin right now, Austin, Texas, and I have four kids. I have a wife. It's busy around the house, but luckily my wife is still okay with me doing a Twitter space in the middle of the day, which is awesome. But at the same time, I enjoy doing this. I come to realize that I have a lot of knowledge that can be dumped and can be shared with a lot of people. So, hence is why I've recently come on to kind of help more people and to kind of advocate to find mentors and to do portfolio reviews and other stuff like that too. So, thank you all for coming here. Andrew, why don't you go next?
Uh, my headset just went out, of course. I'm Andrew Lancaster. I'm currently a senior software engineering consultant for a company called Solution Design Group here in Minneapolis. Been doing this about 15 years. Shashi and I kind of got into it at the same time. Not kind of, we literally did. And so we've known each other through this whole time. Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge advocate of front end, as you can tell by my Twitter handle and the fact that I'm here. And I've been a senior or higher for the last 6 years, and I'm just kind of looking to get back, help people. And while I've done that in my professional um, environment, I've wanted to be able to do that in a broader market and just kind of reach out to people who are not already hired and part of it and help people get there. So that's why I'm here, and hopefully I can offer some sort of help. And just happy to be here, to be honest.
Thanks, Andrew. It's great to have you back with me as well. If you didn't know, like Andrew and I, we came to the realization that we wanted to do something together. So we're trying to start a YouTube channel or podcast called Frontend Division. So this is kind of a pilot for us to kind of see how things go. But we're going to continue to do something and do something together. So next we have is Alyssa. Why don't you tell us about yourself?
Hello? Can you guys hear me okay? Turn
Yes.
off. I'm in my car. So
No
private
problem.
place for
Just stay
me.
here.
Yeah, so I'm Alyssa. I am an aspiring UI UX engineer. My background is in behavioral psychology. I used to be a health coach with Noom, and prior to this, I used to work with kids with autism as their behavioral tech as a behavior technician. And yeah, so I just finished a boot camp maybe 4 months ago. And now I'm just making my way into the field, finding a way to get my foot in the door somewhere, and then hustling hard to do it and get in.
Awesome. Thanks, Alyssa. It's great to have you here. I know we had a conversation yesterday too, and it's great to get to know you as well. So Lynn, you are next. Lynn, tell us about yourself.
Yeah. So my name is Lynn. Hi, everyone. So just a little bit about myself. My background is in architecture. I am just getting started on my developer journey to become a software engineer. I've been studying for a little more than 3 months. So pretty in the beginner stages still. Currently still studying JavaScript after my HTML CSS studies. And other than that, I'm just based in California, living here with my husband and one cute dog.
Thanks, Lynn. Thanks for that intro. And then we have Mia. Mia, you ready to
Yes, I am.
Awesome.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Mia. I was previously a business analyst in the film industry.
You don't need to be on your phone.
I majored in marketing, but long story short, my analyst jobs didn't fulfill me, and I looked into getting a master's degree in psychology or going to a UX bootcamp, but my mentor, aka my brother, told me I should look into coding because he did it. He was also a financial analyst. Now he's a software engineer. And so, yeah, now I'm here. I pivoted my career. I started learning programming in April and been coding in Django Python ever since July.
Awesome. Thank you, Mia. Now, I kind of want to just open it up to all three of you ladies. Tell us like why you made the career change, because I know there's a lot of people here that are doing the same thing, right? Like they're at a fork in the road where they're like, hey, you know what? I want to do something different. I want to do something that I love to do, and that's development or engineering. Like, how did you come up with that realization?
I can go. So I really liked the place that I worked at Noom. Like their company culture was very positive, and it satisfied the part of me that thrives on self-development. Most of my 20s, I kind of worked through like a lot of trauma, and I thought that it was my calling to help other people. And there was a point where I was kind of working towards a master's for counseling psychology, and I felt there was something about it that I just felt like there was something missing. And another piece of that was that I didn't want to live in my healing. And I felt that I wasn't getting my hands busy in the way that like I yearned for. And so I kind of, revisited the part of me, like they say, what you're passionate about is usually something you kind of overlook. And I remember in high school, I would, a lot of people our age, right, would kind of like dabble with MySpace and like kind of edit everything. And I met somebody who had the same background as me. He was also in psychology, did a boot camp, and he worked for American Express. He did a lot, and he seemed to be doing really well with it. So I went onto a free code camp while I worked. And I did like some HTML, CSS courses, and I said to myself, like I'm I'm really, it sucks because like I love my job, but at the same time I feel miserable and I need to take a leap. So I impulsively, just quit my job, did a boot camp, and like I circled back to those days where I was on the computer, like viewing other people's code and like trying to manipulate my MySpace, and then also that part of me that I would just like reach out to all my friends. I'm like, let me do your MySpace. Like, please let me design it for you. Like it felt really good, and yeah. So here I am, pursuing that call, and I don't know. It just everything ever since has like it feels like everything's falling into place.
That's awesome. So what you're telling us is that MySpace was the thing that converted you over. Is that it?
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
I felt like a real like hacker, just like going on someone's page, and I'm like, oh, I like this stuff. Like I would like right click, view source, and it was so funny because like I think everybody was doing that to the point where like I don't know, there was like a certain like code structure or like just like a code that would like if you tried to right click, they'd be like, sorry, no, you can't steal my phone.
I remember that. For me, it was like Asian Avenue, right? It was like similar to MySpace before MySpace, and I was able to go in there, custom CSS, put in some custom scripts. Like Facebook won't even let you touch anything, right? Like it's so simplified. But MySpace and Asian Avenue, like it opened the floodgates. Like you can pretty much hack the thing and sell like a hacker, customizing all your portfolio, your account and everything. So fully know how you feel there. Lynn, why don't you tell us, like, what made you decide to do a career change?
Yeah. Oh man. So I haven't been able to actually share my story with that many people. So let's see how long this is.
Yay!
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, my background is in architecture and engineering. So I've been working in this industry as an urban designer for about 6 years. My degree actually is in landscape architecture. So my work consisted of kind of designing and engineering beautiful and sustainable built environments for people. So I've worked on projects like public parks, urban plazas, and college campuses and such. Just kind of list examples. So I've always known that I wanted to pursue a career in STEM because I was passionate about engineering and design and just about the environment. So I naturally kind of gravitated towards that path. And so I was very thankful that I was able to build a successful career on this industry. But over the years, I realized that it might not be actually something that I wanted to continue pursuing for a few reasons. So among those few, I'd say the most important was sort of like the lack of diversity in mission-driven work in the industry. So unfortunately, there's a huge lack of diversity in just kind of women in leadership positions in the architecture industry, especially women of color. And I say so more so than other industries, and in many cases they also exhibit large gender pay gap and such, and so hard work usually also doesn't really always equal to new or better opportunities, and there's very little support for women who not only want to kind of build successful careers but also kind of a successful family life. So you kind of have to choose one or the other. And I thought that tech was in a different direction in that aspect. And secondly, as I mentioned earlier, there was a lack of mission-driven work that aligned with my passions. And I found it extremely difficult to feel like I was doing good work and making a positive impact to the world and just kind of people on an individual level, because a lot of the work that I did was kind of purely profit-driven. So I guess to give a little context, so some of the research that I did during college was focused on designing for underprivileged communities, because there was a direct correlation between lack of access to safe public outdoor spaces and low income level. And my parents are immigrants, and I also grew up in a very low income bracket. So those are the communities that I deeply cared about. But I realized that those opportunities are actually quite rare to come by in the profession because there's rarely any profit associated with them. But I felt that in tech, not only do I have a larger pool of companies that I can choose to work for, whose vision and passions kind of align with mine, but I also have a larger reach with whatever personal projects that I decide to embark on, since technology is so prevalent in our lives, while still exercising kind of the creativity and problem-solving skills that I practiced in my first career. So I've been contemplating this career change for a few years, and I finally decided to just do it, because time's not waiting for me. And
That's awesome.
Learning to code has really been such a rewarding and fun couple of months that I've had in a very, very long time. And kind of transforming kind of this vision in my head into tangible products and coding things that I can see like the results of immediately. It was very like that immediate gratification was like very exhilarating for me. And I love that coding can kind of open paths for you to do meaningful work in almost any sector. And you're not bound to one industry, whether it's healthcare or finance or nonprofit work. There's so much room for women to thrive and do meaningful work in tech. And I wanted to be a part of that. Sorry, that was a little long, but thank you.
That was amazing. And this
That's great.
girl was telling me that she was so nervous to come on Spaces, but she is such a good speaker. Lynn, you did a fantastic job. And it's just like amazing to hear, the career change and everything, because like, there are so many women now that are moving into tech, right? And which is great because you, not just for diversity, but to kind of bring different views and different points to this industry, because we need more of that. Like it's when you're so stagnant in something, you do something the same way, right? But then when you bring diversity and you bring change and stuff, then you push each other to get better. And that's why I'm a huge advocate of like having everybody come in tech. There's lots of space, lots of room for everyone. So, which is amazing.
Yeah, I just want to say that it's so awesome to even hear. I know that you guys aren't even alone, and the amount of people that are changing their careers, pretty good careers, to do what we do. Something that Shashi and we just fell in love with it and didn't know where it was going to go, and it wasn't very big, and there was tough times, but just we're at a point where people are coming and doing what we love, and I love to hear these stories. And definitely the diversity thing is a really big deal to me anytime I join a team that looks not diverse, and I think we know what that team looks like. But I really push to change that, because you start, it's just boring, right? And it's boring to just have the same ideas, the most, like, it just gets, like, I don't know. Anyway, so I just wanted to say that it's awesome to hear these stories.
That's great, man. So I think we lost Mia. She probably I don't know, the
Yeah, I
flight
was
or
looking to
something.
see.
That's okay. But we still have Lynn and Alyssa, so I wanted to
We
move on to
do.
the next topic and talking just about your journey so far. Like, what are the things that you're learning right now? Are you going the self-taught route? Are you going to boot camp? Are you actually going to back to college or going to college to learn this stuff? What technologies are you going through? And I want both of you guys to kind of just keep your mics open and just have a kind of casual conversation about it.
Uh,
Oh,
at least you want to go first. No problem.
no, you can go ahead. I just had to. Yeah, we're fine.
Okay. Yeah, so I am still going through my JavaScript journey. So, just to mention, so during my previous career, I also used a number of kind of geospatial information system software, which was kind of a Python and JavaScript based visual scripting for mapping and data analysis, which was why kind of I was more gravitating towards the JavaScript. Um, so I'm still going through that, but as I mentioned earlier, like my journey, I'd say it's been exhilarating, but also overwhelming at the same time.
That sounds about right. That sounds right.
Yeah. So I guess the exhilaration part. I'll start with the good first.
Yes.
I'm thinking about maybe like 3 or 4 things. So one, I love that I get to use my problem solving skills, as I mentioned earlier, that I developed in my previous career in a totally different context. So that's one. The second one I can think of, I love that I get to see the results of what I built immediately. This kind of, yeah, this kind of sort of immediate gratification is something that's impossible to get in architecture. So that's something I really appreciate. So typically, the projects that I worked on have a build out timeline of anywhere between like 2 to 10 years. So
Oh,
something
wow.
that I work on, yeah, I might not even see until I'm like 40, 50. So you can just
Oh
imagine
my
how exciting
goodness.
that is for me to see the results of what I coded instantaneously. Like that's very addicting. um, and 3, in my opinion, I feel that tech is so full of people who are focused on support and growth and mentorship instead of competition, which unfortunately is also prevalent in kind of the industry that I came from, not just in the school setting but also in a professional setting. And that mentorship that people offer, just to people that you've just made like friends with like a couple days ago, like that's so meaningful for me, and that's just something that I didn't realize existed in any industry, which I found out through tech Twitter. So I guess that's kind of the aspects of my journey that have been exhilarating. The overwhelming part, I think that the hardest part for me was, like Andrew mentioned, kind of quitting a stable job to give up on my paychecks, to start fresh on something completely new. Fortunately, I have a husband who's been incredibly supportive of my endeavor, but we had to put a hold on a lot of our personal and family plans due to my career change. And I feel this sort of immense pressure to successfully make this switch as soon as possible, which I can't really take any shortcuts in this because there's a lot of learning to do in the meantime. And so that has been mentally challenging for me personally. But so far I've kind of done the best I can to make the best use of my time each day to push myself closer to being job ready. So I feel good about where I'm headed. But yeah, that is kind of the overwhelming part of the journey.
That's awesome, Lynn. Like, I could not imagine if I had to wait 10 years to see my work. Like, I jokingly say right now that my build time for my projects right now are 3.5 hours, and that's a long time. Like, I have to wait, right? Like, it's super long. And it's like, why can't I just, like, work right away? Like, come on, like, you can be fast in this. Like, it works. But just going from that to seeing the instant gratification of changing something and seeing it, right? Like, it must feel amazing to kind of just see things happening as you're changing it, or as you're redoing something. You're seeing it right away, like, opposed to like waiting such a long time to kind of see that change.
I complain about 5 minute deployment pipelines, so now I feel real bad.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I'm thinking about the parallel. I think I was talking to you folks last night about behavior change, and
Mm-hmm.
as a health coach, and even like working with kids, there's only so much you can do to to support somebody. And like, I didn't want to think of it so I guess impersonally, but each person that I worked with, on their health journey, or towards behavior change, like it wasn't like a project. Like, when I think of humans, it's just like progress isn't linear. If there's no point A to point B. And like, as a health coach, it was challenging because I could give my all to like my users. I could boost them up, I could hype them up, I could like support them in whatever they needed, give them the resources, but they can only go as far as they're willing to meet. And it was just so debilitating because I would do so much, and I seldom felt like I was getting things done. I mean, there are definitely people who have reached out to me and said, like, if it weren't for you, you have like been such a great support, so meaningful and so impactful in my journey. I wouldn't get to where I am today because of you, which was fulfilling. But like, it's so hard, like, knowing that maybe the work that you aren't putting in isn't going to yield the results that you want, because that's how humans are. Like, you can only go as far as they can, and our job as coaches, we could not we couldn't do the work for them. And so in coding, it's just so awesome. And for me, because I have ADHD, I need that instant gratification. Like, if I do something, I need to see like immediate results. And it was really nice seeing that, like, the work that I put in, it was equivalent to the work that came, like the product that I wanted to come out. And I feel like it's just so nice being able to be in this. What was motivating to me is just kind of like, I felt, I guess, throughout, like, my career after college, I felt like a lot of the work that I did, it didn't feel like I was getting anywhere. Like, I felt like there was no way to quantify my progress, and there was no way to quantify, like, how much better I was getting. With code, it felt, it's just like, okay, I can learn this concept. Okay, I've solidified that. Okay, I can learn this concept. All right, everything was just so tangible, like visually, and I could just go about my day and know, okay, this is what I need to work on. This is what I need to work on. Everything just feels like certain. And I guess I feel like you have to be a certain kind of person to like deal with the uncertainty of humans, and like know that you can't really control them. Whereas, in technology, you have a lot of control. And even if you don't know it, there is, a lot of resources where you can connect to. And there are a lot of people that you can reach out to get the help that you need to get the product that you want. So yeah, I'm just like, it's so crazy how all these parallels are coming into place now we're talking about them.
Yeah, it's so interesting to hear you talk about that too, because like technology, it changes so fast, right? Like, today it's Svelte, and in 6 months from now, it could be a new JavaScript framework. Like, technology is changing so quickly. So, to hear you say, like, like you want to see the instant gratification. Yeah, totally. Because For me, I don't know about you, Andrew, but when I do some code and I go back 6 months and I look at it, I'm like, who the heck wrote this code? And then you go and look at it, and you're like, oh, it was me. Like you're just
Yeah.
like, oh damn, like you learn so much so quickly, like you're rapidly learning, you're rapidly adapting, and you're rapidly just getting better every single day. And that you're gonna learn that too. And you both spoke about it, like seeing that instant gratification of the changes, but not just that growth, right? You're gonna see that really quickly once you get into building more, and once you get into the industry, you're going to just learn so fast. Did you want to
You know,
chime in on something, Andrew?
Well, I was just gonna say, on that topic. I mean, I spent the first 7 years just kind of roughing it, freelance. Didn't really work for anybody. Um, but what was the topic? What were we just talking about? You just
Oh, I
asked
was
me.
just I was just talking
Just
about how,
complete brain fart. Wow.
how technology is changing, and then how like you go back and look at your code,
Oh
just a
yeah,
few months back, and
yeah.
it's garbage.
Yep. So the first 7 years, I was just kind of like doing weird things. MySpace was in there, and I was actually doing graphic design as well. And then I got my degree, and I realized every time I look back, like 6 months or a year, I'd be like, who was that person? And it was kind of cool to see that and to witness that change. And then after a while, I just started feeling bad about myself. I'm like, I should probably be more. At what point am I going to get more consistent? So, but it still happens. Like I'll look back, and that's just how the evolution of what we do does. And it doesn't mean that we were terrible a year ago. It just means that we've evolved, and you get to constantly see that. I don't think that'll ever change if I go back a year, and well, I don't know. You hope, but probably not.
I actually had a question about that. So, like all of you mentioned, things are constantly changing in the technology space, and what I've been hearing, I guess, throughout the last several months that I've been kind of studying and kind of seeing what others are studying is that the best way for you to become a valuable person to a company is by making yourself an expert at one thing instead of trying to kind of spread yourself too much on too many things. And that's so my experience and kind of in architecture is we call it being pigeonholed. So we if if we have one thing that we're really good at, that is kind of what we end up doing for the entirety of your career. And so, in my case, like I wanted to do conceptual design, but also I wanted to do the nuts and bolts, like technical documentation work. But if you start doing one type of work, you basically don't get the chance to do other type of work anymore for the rest of your career in that company. So I guess it's really interesting to hear that in the tech space, it's more valuable for you to get good at doing one specific thing. And it'd be really nice to kind of hear more about that.
I I actually would not agree, not completely disagree, but I think one of the the greatest things about what we do is there are so many different things you can do. Lateral movement is always welcome. And if you start doing, one job and you're like, well, information security sounds really cool, companies will love that you're open to lateral movements. And you should be as well. The more you know about it makes you better in that one thing that you want to do. But you won't know what that one thing is that you're passionate about unless you understand how all of it works. So I agree, but with a little bit of room on the side.
Well, what I can say is, Lynn, I'm good at everything. I can do design, I can do develop, I can run a business, I can be the project manager, I could do data analytics, I could raise my kids, I could be the mom, I can do all of
You're
that.
Superman.
No, no. In reality, that's what a company wants, right? They want you to do everything. They want you to do everything, but realistically, you can't. You can be an expert at one role. I think that's what they're trying to say,
Yes.
is not one thing, but one role, right? If it's a back end person, then you're going to specialize in backend. If it's a UI person, they're going to specialize in the UI. And it's not just specifically just like CSS, right? It's UI, CSS, HTML, some like JavaScript, or even some framework. So like, and we talked about this the other day too, where a lot of people wanted to be full stack. Yes, there are plenty of opportunities in full stack, and there are full stack engineers out there, but everybody leans to the back end or to the front end, right? Like for me and Andrew, well, I'll speak about myself, Andrew. I have a long history of PHP development, right? But I don't tell anybody I do PHP. I'm a UI
Same.
engineer, and I focus on the front end because I'm really good at it. I'm really good at UX engineering. That's what I'm good at. UX engineering, specifically CSS, JavaScript, HTML, right? Functional programming, I'm still getting better at, but I can still dabble into the back end, do a little DevOps, do here and there. But when you focus on a role, like you get better at that, right? Because that's how you're gonna get in your foot into the door. That's how you're gonna get to these other companies. And then once you get there, you can spread your wings if you want, right? You can learn other things as you go. But when you have a single focus, then you become a specialist in that, and then you learn that, and you learn it really quick. Because if in a whole calendar year, right, you have 365 days. If you're learning just front end for 365 days, you're going to be 365 days better. But if you spread yourself, then you're going to only be half of that, as half as good as that. And so that's why like having a singular focus on a role when you start off is going to be really good. And if you don't know what that is, it's totally fine to kind of dabble in and do both until you figure out like, hey, you know what is my passion? What do I really like to do? Because it may not even be development. You just want to get into the tech industry, and you might want to do be a product owner, right? Or be some kind of other role. But until you kind of go further into your journey and kind of dabble into things and kind of learn all these different roles and things that are gonna come with the roles that you're considering, then you won't know like what you're really really passionate about.
Yeah, and I feel like I can speak a lot to that because when I first got into like devoting myself to development, I I kind of shrugged my shoulders. I'm like, all I know is that I want to design stuff and build stuff, and that's that. And one of the first boot camps that reached out to me, which I ended up going into, um, the person who reached out to me, who ended up being the CEO, the person who owned the company, said that, or the boot camp, he was just like, you will be more competitive if you go in with full stack. So, and I didn't know anything, I didn't know any better. I didn't do I did research, but I didn't go in depth. And so I shrugged my shoulders and I was just like, okay. So the boot camp I actually went to was Python and data science. And it was like a 10-week course where we kind of did everything. We did databases, we did SQL, we did Python, we did Flask, React, JavaScript. Flask and React were like 1 week each, which I feel I feel a little jaded about because now I'm in front end. But like, it was tough because like the pre-work was all Python. And so I did Python and I loved it. I loved like learning to solve problems. Like I did Code Wars and I felt like I was like in math class again. That was like one of my favorite subjects. And I'm just like, oh, if I could do this, then like this will be a lot of fun. But like when it came to like working on my capstone project, it was really difficult because I didn't know, like I wanted to design at the same time, but I didn't really know any JavaScript. Like I had HTML, CSS background, but like the things I wanted to do and what I wanted to accomplish didn't match up. So I felt kind of bad for a long time because this camp didn't support me. Not to say it didn't support me, but it's just like for where I want to go, I'm not even using Python anymore. I have some like database stuff that I want to integrate into like current projects, but like I feel like those 10 weeks, which I'm essentially spending like 19,000 on, is I don't want to say it's for naught, but it's like I could have learned this on my own, you know. And I won't get into that until we do get into it. But truly, like I feel like you don't really know until you have like an opportunity to do like all these different things. So like when I got that portfolio review from you, Shashi, like the other engineer, she was an engineer, senior engineer at Netflix, said the same thing. She's like, you should pick one because like my portfolio said I was a full stack engineer, but I did a lot of front end work. My portfolio. So I don't know. I remember the weekend that you reviewed it and you said like there's no such thing as a full stack engineer. Like I was just like on the bed with like existential crisis, like, oh my God.
No, that's not it. There's it's the line is there's no such thing as a senior full stack engineer.
Got it. And it seemed like it. I mean, like I had a lot of friends from my cohort who also like I get they got hired as full stack engineers, but they're being like, I don't know. I hear from them and they're just like, I feel like my arm is being pulled all over the place and I'm overworked and I'm tired. So I don't know if I want to sign up for that.
I am so sorry if I crushed your dreams of being a full stack
It wasn't that. You're just
developer.
getting your reality check.
Yeah, for me,
Jeez, Shashi.
If I've been on here and I want to be an honest voice, I want to be that honest voice for everyone on Tech Twitter to just know that, hey, like there's a lot of stuff on here that is very positive, which is fantastic, but we also have to put some reality to it, right? Where you have to understand that, yeah, being full stack, you can do it, but it's very difficult. And you're always just going to lean one way or the other, so it's great that you resonated well with that. But then I do agree with you, Alyssa, is that like you as a person goes through a journey, right? They need to be able to have the experiences of multiple things before they can really figure out what they want to do. Um, you know, I'm doing that with my son right now. Like he only likes soccer, but I'm like, no, dude, like let's try multiple sports. Let's put you in basketball. Let's put you in baseball. Let's put you in volleyball. Let's put you in swimming, drums, whatever, right? And lo and behold, after baseball, he was like, I love baseball. I was like, oh, you do, huh? He's like,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
because now I got a taste of it, and now I really want to play more baseball. And the same goes with technology, where you don't know, you want to do everything, but then at the same time, if you don't have the opportunities to do like Python or any like even mobile development, right? If you don't have that experience to even do that, then you won't know what the capabilities are. Once you get to touch it and you get to see like it all come together, you're gonna be like, oh, like I actually like doing this a lot more than this other stack, or I really like this role more than the current role that I thought I was gonna go. I didn't know this one existed, but now that I'm learning more about it, now that I'm actually trying it out, I want to go towards that route.
Yeah, I'm definitely happy. Like I always have like my regrets, but at the same time, I don't really, because I wouldn't know for sure what I wanted until like I went on this path. And so maybe I'll loop back in like Python at some point or backend, but for now, like it's like I at least I know. At least I explored that. And it's like I feel like I'm very set that there's no career that is meant for us. Like we aren't meant to do one thing. Like I think we're meant to do many things, because when people say I'm trying to find myself and create myself, like there isn't really something to create because, or like to find, because you're constantly growing and like evolving. And as expansive as the world of tech is, like you can fill many different roles.
Yes.
And it's just really exciting that as you like learn about like the different positions, I feel like at the same time you learn about yourself, because they're like I feel like you kind of discover parts of yourself you probably wouldn't have ever discovered if you hadn't done the work that you've been doing. So it's I don't know, it's all such like a great experience to be in this place, being so young and fresh and not jaded from the field, and like knowing that like there's so many possibilities that we could fill.
That was such a great way to put it, Alyssa. Like I think that's what a lot of people are going through as well. Is like when you do the career change, right? Like you don't know what the options are. You just know that there's these boot camps. They want to self guide you and go down that path, or you're gonna take the self taught route where you're gonna try to learn everything on your own. Um, there's
And
so
that's
many
why we're here,
avenues.
right? That's right. That's why we're here, right, Shashi, to help.
Yes,
There's so many questions. Where do you go?
so many questions.
And if we can help, I mean, that's and there's so many people. I mean, obviously I see Tech Rally there, and like I've seen people. I haven't even been on Twitter very long, and I see people in here that have already offered help. I mean, it's just there's so many unanswered questions, and just to say, he waved, to help him out,
Yeah, I totally agree because on I started doing this Cyber Mentor Monday. I saw this hashtag and I was like, huh, let me check it out. And I was like, hey, let me put out a tweet there and let me see, if anybody needs some mentoring. And bam, it blew up. And I was like, holy smokes. There are so many people out there that are looking for guidance, and there are not that many mentors out there. Like, and that's how I kind of felt when I was learning and growing in development. Is I didn't have anybody to go to, and it was
well,
really
we didn't have
difficult
Twitter.
to. That's true. We had Craigslist.
Yeah.
That's
And
where
not
we met.
everybody has an amazing wife like yours that lets you. I don't know where you find the time to do all this stuff.
I don't know. You can ask
All
her
right.
that.
Yeah, no, I'm done tooting your horn. Next question.
But yeah, I definitely want to hear from Lynn. Lynn, you brought up the question. I want to hear what your thoughts are.
Yeah, so I think it's amazing that we're talking about this, which that's what we titled it after, because when I first set on my self-taught kind of path, because when you look at boot camps and look at university kind of curriculum, you can see all the syllabus that's filled with like, hey, you're going to learn all of these things, and so you get to dabble in a lot of these things at once. But when you go the self-taught path, I feel like most of the kind of like the content that I looked at, they tell you very specific things like, hey, like, do you want to do front end? And actually not much of the back end work. And they tell you, hey, like, learn this or go this. So you can't really get a feel for back end, but if you really want to go into that, like, then you feel like you have to give up on the front end side of the work. So I feel like the path is almost like set for you when you go on the self-taught, because you also realize that the self-taught path is pretty lonely, I think. Sure, like, you have the online community,
Well said.
but you're physically learning by yourself. You're not
Yeah.
really surrounded by people who you can like throw off questions and like, hey, like, what do you think about this? Like, I'm really feeling back in kind of work. Maybe that's what's meant for me, but what is shown online is most of the front end work. So I think that's been a dilemma for me. The first month that I was studying, I felt really lonely. And so it's really nice that something like Twitter existed where, the moment I got in, like, there was just so much sharing of information, and people bringing up the fact that, hey, like, web development or just, programming in general, it's not about all about like this type of work. You can do this, like, there's an endless possibilities or, opportunities that you could dabble into. So I'm really glad that this was mentioned, because I feel like it's really critical that, learners like me who are just getting started get to hear from professionals who have experience in the industry tell us that, hey, like, it's not wrong for you to feel like you're interested in a gazillion different things, and that's okay, because you're just testing it out.
Yeah, that's totally true. Because if you don't test it out, you won't know what you truly love to do, right? So I'm gonna say this about my wife, and it's gonna go on to this audio track. But so when she goes in the store, right, the first thing that she finds in the store is really good. But what does she do? She goes into the entire store looking at every single item to ensure that the one item that she chose was the best thing, right? But for me, I go and I find that one thing and I'm out of there, you know. But in this case, she's right because you need, even though you found that shiny object right away, you need to maneuver your way around this industry, maneuver your way around all these roles and all these, technologies to kind of see what you really um, adhere to the most. Because then, to be honest, like you're going to be much happier down the long run because when you start to specialize in that one thing, right, that one role, and then you start to get into your career, you're going to be so happy that you went down that path because you took the time to figure that out. And I am so happy that I went down my path, which is front end and then UI engineering. And I jokingly say that I would totally do what I do for free if I didn't have any bills and a family and stuff because I love doing it. And I could do it all day long. Sometimes I do my job and then I do some additional freelance and then I do some additional work and I take on some additional jobs just because I want to keep my mind busy. And when you find that thing, you're just gonna really fall in love. You're gonna get books and dig into it. You're just gonna really submerge yourself into this thing and you're going to become really good at it. And based off what I'm hearing from the two of you too is I know that once you find that thing you're going to jump right in and you're going to learn so much from it.
And the change is mostly slow. Like as you do it, the more you do it, right? Like obviously it's a grind. You gave up a job and you're doing this and self taught is lonely. Yeah. And then but as you go it gets more rewarding and then like I don't know about you, Shashi, at some point I don't know when I became senior. I never thought I was ever going to be a leader or anything or a mentor. It just kind of sneaks up on you and you just keep grinding and it's a great path. It's and there's so many things to do and you'll figure it out. But it seemed really slow to me and then it just kind of happened as far as the milestones.
I wanted to actually ask more about that to you two because I was thinking about like where you'd end up after X amount of years of being in the industry. I know a lot of like senior engineers experience burnout, and it seems like what I notice over time is that um, you folks want to be able to give back, and that gives you fulfillment once you hit like a certain point in your career where it's not just like grinding to know, it's more like how can I, where else can I find fulfillment? Because it seems to shift, and like it seems like a lot of you folks love and are just passionate about seeing people win in this field.
Yeah. For me, you can start as soon as you feel like you're ready. I can't remember who I read. Probably Simon Sinek. I'm sorry that I'll probably quote this guy a lot just because I read a lot of his books in the beginning. Um, but it could have been someone else, but like there's these leadership points, right? Like so everybody has their like a cap at their ability to be a leader, but as you get more confident in coding, and you get out of junior maybe, or there's an intern, it doesn't matter. You can always teach the people below you. And honestly, that should be your obligation. Anybody that you can help, always take the opportunity to do it. And maybe while you're getting into things, you want to more heads down and focused on your own development. That's great, but I will tell you at any point that you can put yourself in a role or like in a place to help somebody else, that is actually going to help you more. I spent the last 2.5 years outside of a leadership role, and I realized I really had to fight and find my own ways to help build my own self because I realized that all of the time I was spending every week helping other developers, it was actually making me better. So it kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I can say that not everybody wants to go down that path to help others. There's a lot of there's kind of multiple paths, right? There's one path where you want to become just a tech lead, where you become the specialist and the go-to to architect everything. Yeah, you might have to work with some people and some product owners and some other developers and stuff like that. But I don't know that a lot of them want to kind of help out. But there are many of us that do, where we get to the point where we're like, you know what, I want to give back. I want to give back. I want to help out. I want to do something different. I want to reach out to those inexperienced folks and help them out. Or I want inside my company, I want to reach out to the junior engineers and the less experienced in a particular stack and get them up to speed, right? So there's multiple avenues that people go to, but I can also tell you, like based off what you were saying, Liz, is that a lot of I don't know about senior engineers, but a lot of engineers, we get bored of what we're doing. Like when it becomes like maintenance mode, right? Then it gets boring. You're like, oh, I want to do something else that's fun. I want to start something else that's new. Let me go somewhere else and do that, right? That's where you kind of see a lot of people jump ship because they get so bored. And like, there was this tweet out there, I forgot who put it out there, but it was like, why do engineers like to start new stuff? And it's like, well, because we enjoy the exhilaration of building something from scratch or architecting something from the ground up and seeing it come to life. And then once it gets into maintenance mode, it's like, oh, this is boring. Like
Yeah.
I need a challenge. I need
Hire
something
someone else to do
else.
this.
Yeah, yeah. Hire a junior engineer to come do this. This is what they're good at. I'm gonna go do something else. And so that's
We
kind of
just gave
where.
away our secret.
Oops. Yeah, Chris is there saying like 100%, 100%. Because it's true. Because our minds, once you get into that mindset of engineering, you're always going, right? You're always wanting to build something. You always wanted to see it come to life. And once it comes to life, you're like, what's next? Like add more features to it? Okay, cool, you can do
Right.
that. Or do you just want to maintain it? No, I don't want to maintain it. You can have somebody else maintain it, but I guess I'll do it. It becomes
Right.
just for us, it feels like boring work. So that's where we kind of want to spread out and say, you know what else can I do? Like, what can I do with my brain? What can I do with the knowledge that I have? Because I want to do something with that. I want to stay challenged. I want to help others, or I want to move into leadership. That's where you'll see a lot of people move into becoming like a tech lead or even a manager itself, because then they don't have to code anymore. They just use their brain to talk to other people, to manage people, and to kind of diverge stuff.
Yeah, you'll hear this probably that there's like two forks, right? A lot of managers that I've had will always have this a similar diagram. There's two forks in the road, management and then like just I don't know what they call it, but like just basically you're a really good programmer, right? And there's a concept out there. It's probably pretty old called a 10x developer. Um, and historically, that means somebody that's basically worth the amount of 10 developers. That's how good they are. That's kind of where people want to be. And that's like a real concept out there. And we probably all know those people, at least one of them, that's just so good, but that's all they do. And the less interaction they have with other people, the better for them. And that's fine.
Yeah.
But I read an article a few years ago. Somebody because I mean I instantly I was like that will never be me. I won't even be a 5x developer on that on that chart. That sounds horrible, but I can't remember. I'm usually better at sources than I am today. But I read an article by somebody that talked about a 10x developer in the sense that you make you have a developer, a senior level leader, whatever, it doesn't matter, who can take five 1x developers and turn them into 2x developers. Therefore, you're kind of a 10x developer in your ability to lead and build those other people up. And I like that concept more. Now, some people might go, and so those are two completely different paths, and you'll notice that. And obviously, there's not just two paths, but those are the main roads. But you can do both until you figure it out forever. I'm still doing it.
Yeah, that's very true, Andrew. But I wanted to pivot us to our next question for Lynn and Alyssa. What kind of things are you struggling with right now, or things that are kind of difficult? It could be life, it could be code, it could be just learning altogether. I definitely want our audience to kind of um, hear about what's going on, and then hopefully Andrew and I can provide some tips and some things to help you guys out.
Yeah. When I think about all the struggles I went through this year to make, I feel like this has been like the hardest year of my life. If I could be like completely vulnerable, like I, I don't have work, and which is great, but being unemployed is a full-time job. As I nanny full-time, but it's kind of like a bartering situation where like I have somewhere to sleep at night while I take care of her kid. And I still have like bills to pay, I have loans to pay off, and like I'm on food stamps, and I it has been so hard, like juggling everything, like my mental health. I haven't talked, I've been home for the first time in like a year and a half, but it's like thinking about going home when I don't have a job. It's like I don't have that connection. Like I'm here in Arizona, like all by myself. Like I have friends, but I struggle to, find these like connections, um, and still, but still like grind so that I could live the life that I wanted to live. And it's just been really challenging. Um, that like prior to tech Twitter, I feel like that was like my lowest low, because a lot of people in my cohort kind of like kept to themselves, and I was struggling to make connections, and I felt like I was completely alone, in kind of making my way. And there are a lot of times, where I felt like, is this even for me? I feel like I have to work 10 times harder because of like my neurological disability. And I have to work like, so I'm getting like really emotional just talking about it, but
Oh, thanks for, yeah, like I couldn't imagine what you were going through, but I think I speak for everybody that, thanks for being vulnerable and sharing that, because like on tech, like I think everybody knows on tech Twitter, it's very positive. It's a great place to, um, get some positivity and some things to just, as people to see your work and just kind of pat you on the back. But it comes down to the struggles and the things that we go through in life, right? We don't share those things because we don't want anybody else to know these things. But
yeah,
I can honestly tell you that, we're all going through stuff. We're all going through something. It may be different, but we're all struggling in something, and you're not alone. That's just all I want to say. Like
yeah,
it's gonna be tough now, but with the interaction that Andrew and I have had with you, like Andrew brought it up, like I mean, I'll let him say it, but you are like such a good person. Like I know you're gonna find success because you're driven, and you want to find that success. And I know that that's like a, what do you call it? Like that's almost like the it factor, right? Where you have to have it. If you don't have it, you're not gonna make it, because there's a lot of people that will try and try and try, and they'll give up. And once they give up, that's, it's over. But I feel like you're a person that's not going to give up. You're like, no, I want this, and I'm gonna find a way, and I'm gonna keep working my butt off, and I'm gonna get there. And I think the best thing was you coming on here. We have, a lot of people on here listening to you as well, and I bet you anything they're gonna resonate with you, and they're gonna be able, willing to reach out to help you out as well, because that's what we are, right? We are a community, and we're a community that's going to be there for one another, that's going to see each other through and keep each other accountable, and also just share the success and share, referrals and all that stuff too. And I think that's the best thing about Twitter, is that I've seen so many referrals and people like referring people to other things, and just seeing success all over. I was skeptical, like I was like, Twitter, you're not going to find a job. But now I've seen it everywhere, and I'm like, whoa, like this is legit, like this is for real. Like as long as you work hard, you're gonna get there. And right now, I feel your pain. It's the hardest time of your the year or your life right now, but it's gonna get better. I know, I can tell that you're a hard worker, and things are just gonna
It gets
go up
better.
from here.
yeah. I know I would. I remember like I don't usually open up to my parents about like, the way I feel. But, when I remember calling my dad one day and I was just like in the heat, like I was just in a rut, and I called him and I was crying and I'm like, Dad, life is so hard. Like, this is so hard. But I'm so grateful because like they were there to support me financially, here and there as much as they're able to. And my dad, he's a blue collar worker, or kind of. He was an engineer. And an immigrant. He was just like, like non emotional, just very like straight to the point. It's like Alyssa, life is hard, and you just have to accept that. Like, but it's like a wheel. Like sometimes you're gonna be the top of the wheel, and you're gonna be celebrating and joyful, and then you're gonna be at the bottom of the wheel. Right now, you're at the bottom of the wheel. And that's okay, because it's only going to go in one direction, and it's just like that. Just like life is cyclical,
Yeah.
like that, where you're going to have a lot of highs, a lot of lows. And like I feel like after I connected with everybody on Twitter, I feel like I'm on such a high. Like, even though I'm not in the place that I want
Good.
to be in, I don't feel like what I'm doing is enough. I at least feel supported. I at least feel like there are a lot of people come from different backgrounds, are also struggling with me to make it in the field, who share the same struggles that I do. And I know that, if I had like an issue, like I could just reach out to somebody. Like connecting with Lynn and Mia has been like a godsend. Like
That's
I
awesome.
needed that lady support.
Hmm.
I was tired of being mansplained. Like, it was just so nice being able to connect with other girls who are in the
Yeah,
same
that's great.
position. I don't know. My heart is full, even though I'm struggling. Like, I feel like this is just kind of like the best I feel like the most like myself I've ever felt like.
That's awesome. I just want to share, and then I never told, like Shashi said, like we don't share these stories of the down times, but I mean, it was not always a glamorous position. There wasn't always people like, even though I had been doing it for, I was very confident in my ability. I couldn't find a job in 2010. My contract got terminated, and I was living there, and I loved Denver. I didn't want to leave, and I was stubborn. And there was a point where I didn't eat for 5 days, and I look back and it's just like, but I couldn't get a job doing anything, literally anything. Like, and I went to the bottom of the barrel of whatever job was available. I couldn't do anything, and I remember thinking like, maybe I should be doing something else. Pretty much what you're saying. And I had the same support system with my dad. Sounds like we have the same dad, by the way. Um, and it's just great. Like, but you push through it, and obviously it's worked out for me. And I can only just tell you that I can relate to your experience, not completely, but a little bit, and tell you that it's going to be good and it will all pay off. And you'll think back to where you are now in the lowest moments, and it'll actually make you feel better about your whole journey, and it'll make you more proud of who you are.
Yeah, truly. I feel like even though I'm like, suffering, at the same time, like I get to see myself be this person I never thought I could be. Like I feel like most of my school prior to being like diagnosed with like ADHD, I felt like I was just kind of mediocre, like my teachers would always say, like you're somebody who's smart but lazy. And now as I kind of like build, like smooth seas never made a skilled sailor. And I feel like even though, yeah, I feel challenged, it's like, I know at the end of this, like I have some freaking sweet ass fruit to harvest. Like I know that like it's going to be good. Like when I get out of this and get through this.
That's awesome. There's only one way up, And so I just, want to encourage you to keep fighting and keep going through it, because we're also here to help and to answer questions as well. And that's kind of why we wanted to do this space, because we know that other people are struggling too, and nobody really talks about it because nobody wants to talk about it. But just know that they're everybody's going through something, and we're here to help as much as we can. Um, so I wanted to give it to Lynn. Lynn, how's work life balance or code life balance?
Yeah, oh my gosh. Alyssa, like thank you so much for being vulnerable about that. Like that made me really emotional. There was so much that came off that I can talk about. Like I'm so glad that, we mentioned health and all because Alyssa, Mia, and I, we've kind of chatted on the side, kind of on our own, through whatever whenever we could find time. And we've talked about mental health and just physical health. And so same as Alyssa, so I one of the reasons why I also was kind of tied back on my previous job was because I was afraid of losing health insurance because I kind of touched on this topic on my latest kind of blog post on kind of why I changed careers and such. But I got diagnosed with something that really had no clear diagnosis and or treatment options, and I've just kind of been suffering from a health condition that I don't know how to resolve, and so losing health insurance by quitting a full-time job was a really big deal for me. And I don't think I'm alone in that because I have had friends, we just don't talk about these things because, kind of talking about health issue, I feel like is kind of a taboo, or, people just don't feel comfortable about it, to be vulnerable about it. So that's kind of what pulled me back from taking this leap because I'm like, well, what if something happens to me while I'm unemployed and, I get, I go in debt with all this health related bills. And so that's kind of what pulled me back for a while. And then, in my job, I was constantly working 70, 80-hour weeks. And I just realized, you know what, like, this is not worth it for me. Like, I've always told, people in my life, like, health is wealth. Like, you need to protect your health while you already have it. Like, I'm so grateful for everything that my body allows me to do. And I didn't want to waste that on doing something year after year on something that doesn't really make me excited. So ever since I've met with Alyssa and Mia and been talking about these things, whenever we feel overwhelmed we tell each other, hey, like I'm really overwhelmed with this, like, and we shower each other with so much support. And I just feel so glad that something like Twitter was allowed to, like, it allowed us to kind of form this bond that I just never knew that we could form over an online platform. And another aspect about it is so I was just talking to my husband about this, but like in terms of struggles. So like I'm married and I don't have kids, but I do have a dog that I really love like a kid. And and I have this personality where when I'm laser focused on something, like I'm very tunnel vision, like that's all I'm doing. Like I have a very specific goal that I'm working towards, and I don't let anything get in the way. I give it my 101% on kind of that goal. And so we we were just on a short vacation because I'm not making money anymore and he's working by himself. We got mortgage to pay and all these things, so we can't afford vacations. But we were like, hey, like I just really feel like we need to go somewhere and just kind of have like time to ourselves to kind of recharge and like just talk about like life and family and not about work and coding, and because that's really all I've been talking about with my husband. And so he was telling me that he kind of felt neglected for a little bit, and I care about him a lot, obviously, because I love him and that's why I'm married to him. And so we had to talk through these things, and trying to find that balance has been difficult for me at times, because I also feel really overwhelmed with kind of other obligations too, and feeling like, man, like I couldn't find that one career that I feel like is my calling from the first go. Like now I'm trying to change careers at this age, and like what am I doing? And I'm lucky that I have family and friends who are super supportive, but I think that internal pressure I put on myself is also kind of an obstacle for me to get through. And and basically just in terms of like learning coding, like it's a whole new language, and trying to make sense of something that I'm not completely knowledgeable of, like for example, like I can know different words in a language and like know how to read the alphabet, but that doesn't mean I'm conversational yet. And it reminds me a lot of when I started learning English for the first time when I immigrated here. I was only 7 years old, feeling that huge disconnect between the world that I was living in and what I actually knew, and feeling really lost. And I also find myself often feeling really defeated when I realize how much I don't know. Because the more you know, the more you realize that you don't know. And like you mentioned, like things are constantly changing in tech, and it's technology is constantly evolving, and I feel like I'm never going to catch up. So I'm kind of working on setting healthy standards so I don't put unrealistic expectations on myself. And what I've learned from so many of you through this platform is that, you know, being a developer is also kind of being in this mindset of like being a student for the rest of your life, for the entirety of your career. So basically, we're never going to stop learning. So we might as well get comfortable with that concept now than later, for the sake of our mental health.
I hear your frontal. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Alice.
No, I was gonna say, like, I hear your frontal lobe kind of like solidifies, like around like your 30s, and you have to. I feel like if you want to pursue development, you have to constantly like, you know, be in the know of like, you know, just yeah, like you said, constantly learning. And I don't know. I mean, I think it's a blessing, because I can't imagine like staying at one career where, you know, you have the information that you know, and then just sticking to that info for the rest of your life. Like security, yes, but like God, that would be so boring.
Yeah, I was basically just gonna say, you're right, Lynn. You're gonna keep building and learning, keep building and learning throughout your whole entire career, because there are so many things to learn, and so many things change, and so many new things that come, and so many other things that come by, right? Like it's always a constant battle of, hey, how am I gonna learn more efficiently? And that's where you're going to get to, is you're going to get to the point where you're like, okay, this is how I learn. I was speaking yesterday about like the five love languages, right? There's certain love languages that resonates to you better um, from your spouse, right? And that, and if they speak to you in that language, you're gonna understand it a lot more. And it goes the same about learning. Like you're gonna learn how you learn the best. And once you learn that, then you're going to be able to dig in and learn things much quicker, or much more efficiently. But it's going to take time for you to figure it out. Is it watching tutorials? Is it reading a book? Is it, reading blogs? Is it like building and learning? Is it building and failing and then learning? There's so many avenues to learning, but along your journey, you're going to be doing a lot of this stuff, and you're going to start to learn and pick up things, and then you're going to get better at things. I was jokingly saying the other day that I have a developer that he's a junior, and I gave him a task to do something, and it was kind of a debug task. Took him 2 days, and I was like, okay, let me check it out. And it took me like a minute to get it, and I was like, huh, why was it so fast for me? But I was like, oh yeah, because I have 15 years of experience, and he's only got like one or two. So throughout that journey, I've learned efficient ways how to debug this code. And so it's gonna go along the same way of like this journey. It's a long journey, and don't feel like you need to catch up, because there's so much to catch up to. Just know that, as you go down your path and you're continuing to learn, you're going to pick things up, you're going to catch up to that specific item quickly, and then you're going to be able to get into the industry. And then that's where I always say, like, when I see people start their first job, I always say that the first week, the first 2 weeks or so, you're going to learn so much, because you're going to be working in teams. You're going to be working probably with Get. You're going to probably learn how to spin up a local instance of the application. You're probably going to, learn so many things that you didn't do when you were self-taught, or when you were in a boot camp, or when you were at college. You're going to learn so many things, because while you're at a company, there are so many other things that are not being taught or not being trained, especially like the agile process, right? Like once you go in there, like, wait, what is that? What is a sprint? Like, how do I do this? Like they're teaching some of that stuff, but once you get into a company, it's always different. You always have to learn the way they do things, and you always have to learn their technology. your technology might not just be React. It could be React with Redux or React with some old plugin that they want to upgrade, and now you have to learn that too. So there's just a ton of learning that's still ahead of you. Oh, Andrew said that Twitter crashed. Did it crash for you guys?
I'm still here.
Okay.
Hear you.
Just you, Andrew. I'm sorry, Andrew. Just you.
Oh man.
Awesome. So my next question I wanted to go into is, how has Tech Twitter helped you?
I'm gonna sound like a broken record here. So I was gonna say, tech Twitter, oh my goodness. So in terms of learning, I think it really helped me get a good gauge of different resources that are available for me to kind of expand my skill set on certain topics. So it's really easy for us to see kind of, because things are kind of live on Twitter, seeing what platforms people are using to like learn different languages, or being able to get an unfiltered, unbiased opinion of how much they liked or disliked the curriculum in a certain website. But the biggest I would have to say is the social aspect, which has been incredible. I already said this, but I've got to meet Alyssa and Mia to kind of like go through this journey with, and we're all career changers. There's so much that we can reflect on kind of how our journey has been, to kind of talk about our problems and our difficulties whenever we need each other. So again, like that culture of sharing is caring in tech Twitter is something that I've never seen anywhere else. And not only have I been able to use this platform to kind of like share my story, just like this space and my learning journey, I've just met so many wonderful people, not only in the same stage as me, but also kind of professionals like you, Shashi and Andrew, who have been, working in the industry for many years, like reaching out to offer help and mentorship to people that, that we've never actually physically met them in person, which is something that I'm extremely grateful for.
But hey, you met Tech Rally.
I did. I met Alex. I met
That's
so many amazing
awesome.
people. Yeah. And we got to go get Korean barbecue, which is freaking amazing.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I've just been able to build a network of people, online that I can reach out to if I ever have any questions or need help on anything. And I know that they care about our growth and they're invested in helping us out whenever we need them. And I've just been able to forge so many relationships in this industry, just through Twitter without actually being a working professional yet, which is typically what it takes for us to like make those connections. So being a learner in Twitter, trying to get into tech, I think just has been so amazing. I don't know how else to describe it.
No, that's awesome. I wish that Tech Twitter was around when I started too, because it would have probably and got me to where I was much quicker. Because, learning stuff back in the day on your own or just through coworkers and stuff like that, you only have like one resource, right, or two, and it's so difficult to be learning at that time. So it's been so like amazing to see like and hear you guys talk about like the connections you're making, and just the ability to connect with people from all over the world. It's not even just like where you're at or just in your city. It's like actually in a different country or even just across the globe. It's been amazing to kind of like hear and see everybody's just content and everybody's growth and success as well.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because the time difference and the fact that everyone's living in all different time zones is something that I'm still getting used to, because I'm so used to like talking to my friends who I know like live in like the East Coast, or like they're in the same Pacific time zone as me, and then I realize, oh, this one person I'm trying to schedule a talk with them, but they're like 12 hours ahead of me. Like I'm like, oh, you're right. Like you don't live near me, and I need to reshuffle how I schedule things with people, because it's really like everyone's from everywhere here.
Yep, I can totally speak to that because yesterday I was trying to schedule a meet and greet, right, with Alyssa and Mia, and they are from Pacific time zone, and I'm in Central, and Andrew and I are Central, and I was like, Andrew, are you good for 9 o'clock? Oh, yep, I'm good. Okay, and I go back and tell the girls like, okay, 9 o'clock PT, and I forgot to switch it back 2 hours, and so I got that meeting completely messed up, and I was like, oh yeah, everybody's from around like different time zones. I can't you know, think that they're from the same time zone. So it's been just amazing to kind of connect with people that I probably would have never connected with without having a, an online presence with Twitter. Andrew, why don't you tell us how you're enjoying Twitter? Oh, I think he's out again.
What was the question was on what we've gained from Tech Twitter so far?
Yeah, pretty much gained, or how has it helped you? How have you enjoyed it?
Um, I so I've always had like this kind of like philosophy. I think, you are the five people you surround yourself with. And, like from my background, like I wasn't around, I came from an island, and a lot of the people, that I grew up with are pretty laid back. And, they like to, they just enjoy life and are comfortable with where they're at. And I knew that I wanted more. And so it was hard kind of like doing what I wanted to do, um, amongst being people who are comfortable with where they're at. And so um, what Twitter, being a part of Twitter, has brought to me, was constantly just kind of like seeing a feed where everybody was working hard to learn. And I felt, even though like I'm not around people physically, mentally I feel like I'm on the same track as them. Like everybody's, doing the 100 days of code, building on that consistency. And if I hadn't done, like, I remember the time period after boot camp and before I joined Twitter, I felt like, I felt like directionless. I'm like, every day I knew I needed to do work, but like I didn't know what I was doing. I was just applying for jobs, like working on old projects, and I felt like kind of directionless. But then when I joined Twitter, I just see like so many like awesome projects, like, and it just blows my mind like what people are able to accomplish. And when I get to see that, it's like, if they can like make something like this, and and they have the path that they're on, then I'm also capable of doing the same thing. And so it has just been such a blessing, being able to, I don't know, be a part of like this energy track where we all collaborate to like, you literally just like put a tweet out there like, hey, I need someone to take a look at this, or like, what do you guys think? And like I just like get flooded, like people get flooded with with feedback or with like comments. And it's just, it feels so good to know that you're not the only one trying to, to grow. And I feel like I'm so much more capable of doing what I want to do, just because I'm around people who feel the same way about themselves and their journey.
That's awesome. That's great to hear that Tech Twitter is helping you out in that way, because I've also talked to other people too, other aspiring developers, and they feel the same way. Is that it's so inspirational, it's so positive and uplifting, to have to go through this and to know that, hey, you know what, like, I'm having a tough day, or I'm not able to learn this concept. Let me go ask Twitter and see if they can help me out. And lo and behold, there's going to be some people that are able to just pick it up and help you out. It's been just really awesome to see that too, right? That like there's a community that's willing to help others, and there are so many people out there that um, are wanting answers, or like are looking for answers. Like there are so many people learning, and sometimes they don't know what the right path is, or they don't know what, the most efficient way is. So to be able to have other people out in Twitter that can answer that for you without you even like having a personal relationship with is amazing. And I think that, it's just going to continue to be a great community for aspiring developers, aspiring people that want to get into this industry.
I was also gonna add that I think what's been the most magical is the fact that if you are learning a specific programming language, like anyone around the planet that's learning that same language as you knows exactly what you're talking about, because it's the same language. So you don't need to know English or Korean, whatever
Yeah.
language you speak, to understand this, which I think is so amazing and different about learning programming and learning coding.
Yeah, that's so true. Like there are so many different people from all over the world that are learning similar things that you are, and they don't have to have that same dialect as you to give you answers, which is pretty cool because there might be someone that has an answer for you that resonates with you better than someone else that may speak the same language that you do. So it's been really interesting to kind of see the dynamic of how Twitter, um, all the content that flows through your timeline and all that stuff. It's been awesome to kind of see all the success and all the sharing as well, and just kind of seeing everybody's journey, right? Like I mean, today I saw a couple people just get jobs. And then I have another person that I connected with. I don't know if he received a job, but he got an interview for the first time. And, to be able to share that success with them is amazing. Like, I don't think I would have been able to do that if I didn't, come onto Twitter. So the next question that I have for you guys is, what is your next step? What do you think you're going to do next?
Speaking back to um, kind of what we were talking about before, kind of like reshifting my journey, and taking a step back from. I felt like after boot camp, like a lot of what they say is like, you just have to, finding a job is a numbers game. You just have to shoot your shot everywhere. And so like I would go ahead and, just kind of like I applied for Noom again. I heard crickets, and I I went back to like I just applied for just I just went at it every morning, like Monday morning, Tuesday morning. I wake up like around 6, and I would just send like as many applications as I could, because that's what our career coach had told us to do. And I didn't, but at the same time, I didn't feel really good about my portfolio because, my code was messy. It wasn't clean. And I had things in there that I knew I could do a lot better at. But I knew at the same, I was in survival mode. So I needed to get a job. And so like after, like I kind of like did some deep diving into like what I wanted. Now my journey is just kind of like being at a place where I feel good about, I can feel good about applying for jobs. And I know, Shashi, you had like posted something about, like never feeling ready, right? You just have to go for it. Like I feel like it's so true that maybe you know more than the person who's probably going to get hired. But at the same time, for me, I felt like I don't even have like a solid fundamental like knowledge of these things. In boot camp, it's like drinking out of like a fire hose. Like they shoot out information to you like
Oh my
rapid
goodness.
speed. It's crazy. And like
Yeah.
and so like I knew that if I wanted to have the confidence that I was kind of like faking just to get in, because I'd been through several interviews, and like I got in through like the first few, but then when it came to the technical interview, like I flopped. I'm just like, okay, I need to tune it out, and like I need to like focus on building a fundamental, like a strong fundamental base. And so like,
Yeah.
yeah, I've basically just been like grinding, learning JavaScript, and like I go through like certain sites like recently Frontend eval has been great. and just kind of like going from there. And I think after like I hit a certain point, I feel like I'll be comfortable with applying for jobs again. Um, and but at the same time, I've been applying for jobs like here and there, maybe 3 a day or something, just so that like, you know, I think I've always been like an advocate for, you know, like you are like where you are, and you know whatever your portfolio says, you know, like there's going to be someone out there who will take a look at your skills and your soft skills, evaluate who you are as a person with the time you've met them, and say like, hey, you know, maybe they're not like junior developer material, but you know they have certain skills that are unique in that they're able to, you know, like they're teachable. And so that's kind of like where I'm at. And this in between, I was just like grinding and continuing to build that foundational set, and then also you know, trying to make my way back in the field.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up a lot of good points. I always tell people that when they say, "Oh, I don't know if I'm ready yet," you're always ready. The reason why I say that is because you need the experience to interview, right? Like just knowing the technology and like thinking that, you know, you're good enough, that's not going to cut it because you still need to pass the interview, right? And the only way you do that is to receive interviews or do mock interviews and continuously hone in on your interviewing skills. Soft skills are great, but as you said, you know, like the technical aspects of the interview are difficult, and I struggle with that too. Even though I've interviewed and done interviews like so many times, that's my kryptonite. Like I can't do live coding very well because I just feel like I'm not, you know, doing the right things, or maybe I'm too particular or too picky. So you know, you're gonna need that chance. And I always say, you know, I don't know, I don't know who coined this. It's either Michael Jordan or Wayne Gretzky, but you miss 100% of the chances that you do not take. So if you don't take it, you just missed it, right? But if you take it, there's a chance. And you know what's it to you is once you apply, you know, you never know what happens. Um, but I know you were also speaking like, you know, you want like that company to kind of see you and see like that you have potential and stuff like that. I'll be pretty frank with you that not many companies are like that. There are some that are like that, but most of them, they have a role and they have to fill that role. Either somebody left or they need a specific person to fill this role. And sometimes it could be, hey, we want to just hire some junior developer to train them, so they can do some of this work, and we just want somebody to come in. But for the most cases, they're looking for someone pretty specific, and sometimes that potential is not good enough. You know, for me, when I was doing interviews for interns and like junior developers, I always sought out for potential. I always connected with that person and try to like see where they're at and see if, you know, I can help them out as well, because potential does go a long way. But as you go through and if you get a job right away, fantastic. But if you don't, know that, you know, you need to continuously to hone your interview skills, and maybe it's your resume, maybe it's your portfolio that you need to continue to enhance. And so that's why, you know, every Friday I try to do these portfolio reviews, because there are people that are out there that are ready to go. But when I look at the portfolios, I'm like, hey, you know, like you need to fix these things, because when I receive a portfolio, if I'm hiring for a junior developer role or any role at all, and I'm looking at portfolio, you have 5 seconds to win me over. If I look at it and I'm like, this is not good enough, I'm gone. But if you get me, then I'm like, okay, let me find out more. Let me go look at your work. Let me go look at more stuff about it. Let me go learn more about you. And then as I dig in, then that's what matters. But if you can't even hook me within the first 5 to 10 seconds there, I'm on to the next one, because I have a full-time job. I'm still doing my work, and I still have to, you know, figure out who I need to weed down to interview. And then when it gets to that process, I have to figure out like, okay, now I have to interview this person, take time out and figure out like if who the best candidate is out of these people. And maybe sometimes it's not. Um, and so that's why there was a person on Twitter today. I forgot what they were saying, but I was basically saying, don't leave any stone unturned. Every aspect of the interview process, from when you apply to when you talk to them, from when you do the tech interview, from when you introduce yourself, you want to try to be precise and as good as you can, because every little aspect will trigger them, right? You don't know who's going to talk to you. You don't know who's going to be reviewing your work or anything, but you want to ensure that for the full spectrum, you have a really solid solution, right? You have a solid resume, you have a solid portfolio, you have a solid intro, you have a solid answers, you have just the skills to do the live coding, like because you practice it so much. Now, it sucks because like the interview process itself, it's so draining. Like last year, I must have done, I'm not joking, like 100 interviews to try to get a new job. And I did so many tech interviews. I was so sick and tired of it. Some days I had like 5 interviews a day for 5 different companies. And I was like, that was basically a full-time job, just doing interviews. But at the end of it, like I was like, man, I'm getting pretty good at interviewing. I didn't want to, that wasn't my plan, but once you do it over and over and over again, you just get better and better and better. So, that's also an area that everyone can improve on is just interviewing altogether.
My goodness, there's so much I can. So I haven't gotten to the job search stage yet, but I've definitely heard a lot about the difficulties once you get to that stage. And Alyssa, what you said about boot camps being like drinking out of a fire hose, that's such a scary visual, honestly. But
That's so good.
because
So good.
because I've decided after several months of self-studying to actually attend an in-person full immersion bootcamp myself at a place near my home. And I've kind of touched on this topic earlier, but that self-learning journey can often feel really isolating, despite the connections that we make with others online, because like I said, you're physically still studying by yourself. And I decided that I wanted to be in a learning environment, surrounded by others who are kind of in the same stage as me, and we can ask questions to each other, work on projects together. And ultimately, I felt that this is an environment that I know I learn the best in and also thrive in. So my next step in my journey, so my cohort is starting next Monday. It's catching up very quickly, and it runs until March. So that's gonna be my focus for the next several months. But going back to what you said, Shashi, about like the interview part. So I remember it distinctly at the beginning of my research stage of kind of this career change path. Like I've just seen so much about how like once you get to the job ready part and you start applying for jobs, like, oh, like you're gonna have to prepare like these whiteboarding interviews and like lead code questions and like crack the code interview, all these books. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, like when am I gonna get to those? Like these just pages after pages of things that like I just like it was like alien language to me. Like, oh, I don't understand any of this. And I'm just getting started. It's so overwhelming. And also because like my previous career, I also had a job where I had to have a portfolio to to show my work. It's visual, but it also needs to tell a story. It has to have a narrative. I have to show my technical skills, my design skills, and all these things. And I'm just like, like why do I always gravitate towards jobs or careers that need a portfolio? Like, could I not just get a job where I can just show them, hey, I'm smart, can you hire me?
Yeah. I think that's the tough thing, right? Like, when you're beginning, you need those things because you need to set yourself apart. I've spoken in a couple spaces about this too. It's one thing to just apply, but it's one thing you need to stand out, because if you're fighting against other people in the industry, you're gonna need to stand out. And sometimes they might be 2, 3 years in, and you're at zero, right? You just started, and so you still need to stand out somehow. And how to do that is with a resume and a portfolio or even a cover letter. Like those first initial pieces of contact are going to be very vital. For me, I've been fortunate that I have a ton of experience, and my portfolio is a blank white paper or blank white screen, I would say. Most of my information is on LinkedIn and on my resume, and I still get hired because of that. I don't even have a portfolio. My GitHub has a couple public repos in there, barely anything useful. But my work and the roles that I've done itself, they speak for myself. And so, and then how they can verify that is by interviewing me, by asking me questions and hearing keywords that I say and things that how I respond to their questions. And that's how I interview too, is when I interview someone for a specific role, there are some things that, I'm looking to hear. And once I hear these keywords or these technologies or how you uh, solve a solution or something, like I kind of know how far along you are in your career. Um, I'm not an expert at it, but there's certain things that you just know, like, oh, this person really knows what they're talking about, or hey, you know what, this person has a lot, potential, and they're really good at this. Or it could very well be this person has no idea what they're talking about because they're BS in their way, and I know for sure that this is not the right candidate. So there's just a lot of things, and that's why I stress that the interview process is daunting because you can say one word and it's the wrong thing, or you can say one phrase and it's the right thing, and you don't know that because the interviewer is the one that's looking for these things, and there's no like magic bullet, right? Or magic word that is going to get you by the whole thing. It's a process. You have to go through it. Some people get very lucky and they get a job within one or two interviews. I've had that happen before. I was looking for a career change and did one company interview, got the job, and switched. But I've also been on the flip side where I wanted to get a career change, and it took hundreds of interviews to get that job. So it's a daunting process. You never know where it's going to go, if it's going to be easy or if it's going to be difficult. So that's why I always say, like, you're always ready. You have to try because the more you try, the more you'll get better at it. Oh, did I lose you guys?
Hi, sorry, I just changed. I went back inside.
Oh, no problem.
But yeah, truly, I know we were talking about last night on like, kind of like how everybody who comes to the field starts in different places. Like, um, I feel like, as somebody who I feel like it's hard to pick up concepts for me. I know some people like are geniuses. It's just like they were born to program, and like they can kind of like as soon as they know something, they can apply it and like learn more from there. But truly, like, practice makes perfect, and like even though I know that I have to work a little bit harder to remember things and to like apply them. I know like every time I kind of reiterate over like certain things, like it feels easier. And so, that practice has been like super helpful, like in my coding journey and like in my personal life, because I'm somebody who, I don't know, it's hard for me to kind of go about my day and like know that maybe the efforts that I'm not putting in aren't yielding the results that I want now. But like now I'm learning that the more I do something, the easier. Yeah, it's just kind of common sense, but it isn't for me. Like it was just really hard to kind of like be that person who would just kind of like dig in at something and like, eventually, it'll come naturally. So yeah, I really resonate with that. It feels really good to be in that space where I can just, like know that there's going to be another day, and like I can like be able to really just kind of output the things that I want eventually.
Yeah, I think you're bringing up a very good point. And I know I alluded to this as well, is everybody learns at their own pace, right? When you compare yourself to someone else and how they're learning, how quick they are, and all that stuff, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot, because then you're going to start cutting corners and stuff because you want to catch up to them. But in reality is you have to learn the way that you learn best. And an example that I had was, again, my wife. I'm so sorry. I hope she doesn't listen to this. But for directions, right? Directions, okay? I can give her directions. Hey, go here, turn right on this highway, turn left on this road, turn right by McDonald's, and you'll get there. Okay? Okay, good. And halfway through, she's like, where do I go again? How do I do this? What was the street name? I don't know
That
the
is so
I don't
that is so mean.
I don't know the street name. I just know that it's a right on McDonald's. That's what it resonates with me, right? And that's kind of the same way with coding. Like some people can just grasp it real quickly and just be like, "Oh, I understand it. I get it. Okay, I got you. I know your language. Yep, got it." But some people are like, "Wait, I need the details, or I need it in a different format to truly understand it." And I didn't really understand this on why so many people do tutorials on the same exact thing until I heard somebody say, you know what? It doesn't matter if you do it again because the way that you explain it is going to resonate with other people. And that's why there's so many different forums and tutorials on the same exact thing because different people learn differently. And that's what, I want you to understand too and learn is that you're just learning differently from them and you're going to grasp things way quicker in different areas than another person is. But we all are striving and learning how we learn the best.
So true. I also feel like that applies like at different stages of your learning because initially when I first started the self-taught route, I did not understand how to read documentation. I had to. The best way for me to learn was a visual learning. So I had to dabble into multiple different kind of learning platforms before I finally was comfortable enough to start reading documentation. And then from then on, it's much more easy to understand other things and just everything just kind of falls together. But getting to that stage where you feel like, hey, like I feel like I'm comfortable enough to move on to the next stage of my learning. Like I think I personally, it took me a little bit longer than other people, but like you said, everyone has a different path and kind of the amount of time it takes for us to understand certain concepts. We shouldn't expect ourselves, and base our learning journey on other people's timelines.
Yeah, damn straight. Like I feel like, I feel like this like the second I stopped looking at other people's lanes, I said like I just want to be better than like the person I was yesterday. I felt like that's when like the real progress happened because I felt like every time I made progress in my own journey and I looked at other people's, I'm like, God, I'm always falling short. And when you feel bad about yourself, that's not going to help anything. And so to really build like my self-efficacy and like the confidence in myself, I just said to myself, okay, like maybe I didn't understand it today and maybe this person's far off, but like they're not me, and I've always struggled with that, like comparing myself to like other people. And in coding, it helped me to gain like the insight that like everybody's where they're at, and like I have a skill set that the next person doesn't have next to me. And like even though I have to work hard, that's not a bad thing. Like it's just humbling to be in a place where like you're constantly learning, and there you have like your unique skill set is something that nobody can take from you. And so the comparison thing is huge. It's been a humbling practice, just being on Twitter and just being like, hey, like I'm working here and I'm good enough where I am.
Yeah, I mean, as much as you may feel like it's only the beginners that do that, I do it too. All of us do it, right? We have someone or some many people that we see and we're like, hey, I wish I could do that too. Hey, how come that person is doing so well in their career? I want to be there too. Like we're always going to have that feeling, but until we realize like, oh, I can get there, but I have to work to get there, or I just have to focus on myself, focus on what I can control. That's one thing that I realized this year is I need to focus on what I can do, what I can control, because all this other stuff, I can't do that, right? So if I can control my own journey and what I'm going to learn and where I'm going to go, then that's what I just need to focus on. I can't compare myself to other people because I'm going to fall short every single time. And just know this too, that there are other people out there that look up to you too and say, hey, I want to be where Alyssa is. I want to be where Lynn is. There are going to be people that, are going to look for you for guidance on this stuff as well. And so, that's why we're always learners. We're always teachers. We're always, in that realm of just helping each other out.
I also just wanted to add that I think that's where also the not comparing part also kind of goes back to how I think that 100 days of code that Alyssa and I are currently doing came in clutch, because I remember doing my first JavaScript project. I was working on my rock paper scissors, and I was so confident going in. I was like, day one, I'm like, oh wow, like I got this. Like I understand what I'm doing. I'm gonna be done in like 2 days. And then I made my first update, and the next day I was still working on it. And the next day I was still working on it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I was so confident that I'd get done with this by now. And then day 7, I was still working on it. And you know what? Like I made an update that I'm still working on it, but honestly, like you're the only one that cares about how long something is taking. No one else cares. They're still cheering for you. It doesn't matter what stage you're in. You're the only one that's putting that pressure on yourself. So you gotta just be confident about where you're at, and just feel comfortable about how long something is taking for you to understand. Because once you get through that, like that's how much more accomplished you'll feel.
That is so true. But I do want to pivot us to our last question. We're coming up on the 2-hour mark. And my last question is, because it's Thanksgiving, what are you thankful for? Lynn, why don't you go first this time?
Yeah, I want to say again that I'm really thankful for my husband. I think having a partner that's really supportive of your career change endeavor, I think he's my rock. When I'm feeling that imposter syndrome kick in, or I'm having a late night kind of debate with myself and like, what am I doing? He's always there to be like, hey, remember the reasons why you decided to do this? Like he always reminds me why I feel so passionate about doing this and all the effort that I've made so far, and that I've like, and for me to reflect on how far I've come in this journey just within 3 months. Sometimes it's easy for us to kind of lose ourselves in our progress because we see the changes very slowly over a long period of time, but we forget to look back to all the way in the beginning and see the difference that we've made so far. And so I'm really grateful for him, and also just for my health. I mean, being able to have a supporting partner that just kind of cares and knows about me. And I sometimes have days when I don't get to cook because I'm just so busy studying, and he's there to cook for me and do all these things and take care of me, and all I have to do is kind of take care of myself and kind of put all of my focus into doing this thing that I'm trying to pursue because it's something that I feel passionate about. And so I would say that's something that I'm really thankful for.
That's awesome, man. I know I can go next because I was gonna thank my wife, even though I spoke about her 2 times in this space. I am so thankful for her because right now she's watching our kids, and while I can do this space with y'all, and also she's been a great advocate of me just being on Twitter and continuing my career and all that stuff, and I just want to thank my kids too, because we moved out here to Austin on a limb, and we didn't know anybody. We just came, and they've enjoyed it so much, and I just want to, I'm so thankful that they have been so accepting, and have like made friends and all that stuff here as well. So that's definitely
I'm not
family
thankful
for
that
me.
you left me.
I am so thankful that I left Minnesota, cold weather. I hate the snow now. I hate the ice. And wait till January, February comes around when it's below 0. I'm gonna be so happy that I'm in down south here. Alyssa, what are you thankful for?
It's about the same. I'm super thankful of my family. We're not, I wouldn't say like we're extremely close. We'll probably talk once a week, but, um, you know, as much as they wanted me to kind of like go in another direction, they're like, I don't know why you didn't go into nursing, or like, I don't know why you aren't working for a hospital or for the government, like, because I was just so like solid in like my journey and like where I wanted to be. They've done everything they could to support me. I feel kind of like, I think about like my sister, as my parents are, old, and my dad is 80, just turned 80 this year. And she's been like taking care of him, or them on her own. But they do everything they can to like make sure that I have the means to like get by. And so like, I don't know, I just have so much gratitude for them for, like supporting me financially when I can't support myself. Like I still work on the side. I drive for Lyft, and I DoorDash and do Instacart, but like, really like this kind of like unequivocal like understanding that even though like maybe I'm not seen or understood in like the choices that I make, they at least like want to make sure I have a roof over my head, or like I have food on the table. And um I wouldn't be in the position I am if it weren't for them, really.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And lastly, Andrew, what are you thankful for?
I'm thankful I made it back in time before the end of the show. I don't know what happened. I think Shashi banned me. No, I don't know. It like crashed was a lot. Anyway, we don't need to go into all of that. I'm back. I'm thankful for my kids. My son's right next to me. I'm sure he will speak in a second without being asked to. Um, I'm just thankful for so much. I mean, life has been good. I mean, ups and downs, but it wasn't always easy. But like I mentioned earlier, like we have these, but we all have these paths. Nothing was given to us. We persevered and we got through it, or we're persevering and we're getting through it. And I'm thankful that my journey wasn't easy, because I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't be proud of who I am today, without all of the struggles. And I'm thankful for this space. I'm thankful for all the people listening, all of that as well. Because like I said, I'm new to this, and it's just amazing to be able to reach all these people, and you see the ones that are sticking around. I couldn't be more thankful.
I could not agree with you more. In ending, we just want to thank everybody for coming. I know some of you stayed with us, or came from the beginning to the end. And I also want to thank Lynn and Liz and Mia for sharing their journey so far. I know that there were some vulnerable moments, but that's great, because we're here to kind of help. We're here to share. We're here to uplift one another. I know Tech Twitter is very positive in many ways, but also at the same time we have to be honest sometimes too, right? So that way we can grow. That way we can persevere and find the thing that we're looking for, which is a career in technology, mostly for us, right? For everyone. So, with that being said, thank you for coming. We're already talking that we might even have a part 2 next week or so. So stay tuned, and thank you very much, everyone. Bye bye.